Well, hello out there, and welcome to another episode of the Hyperion Adventures podcast. My name's Tom. I'm here with my Tinkerbell of a wife, Michelle.
Hello.
We're so happy to have you join us once again. I don't know how you found us, but we're so happy you did. If you want to find us in the future, you can find us on SoundCloud, on Stitcher. If you want, we can come right to your device or your phone if you just subscribe to us on iTunes or Google Play Music. But we're just so happy you found us. And we love hearing from you, by the way, just like we heard from our favorite former Disneyland VIP hostess who sent us a message on Facebook after listening to last week's episode that we did on the Run Disney Race training tips. She said, good tips. Also, I get my runner's high from the original DuckTales theme song. Which,
I know, that was awesome.
As soon as she said that or posted that for us, I was thinking the same thing, like we should get that theme song on our runners playlist out there.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, we'd love to hear from you. You can find us on Twitter at Hyperion Podcast, on Facebook and Instagram at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. You can email us at HyperionAdventuresPodcast at gmail.com. At gmail.com, and you can find us on the web at HyperionAdventuresPodcast.com. And we are looking to get those of you who started out with us at the very beginning of this show, the people who've kicked this podcast off, who have been with us for the first 2-3 months, we want you to have something special going on. So we're kind of want to find out who you are, where you're listening to us, and we kind of want to get you into this group that I think we're going to call the Hyperion Adventurers. They just kind of be that original group as we hope to grow this thing larger in the future. But we want those people that supported us from the very beginning to kind of get something special out there, whether it's going to be some meetups at some Disney event, or whether it's going to be maybe some coffee mugs we'll send out, or T-shirts or something. We're still trying to work that all out, but we want to know who you are and where you're calling us from.
Right. And, we love talking Disney and we love interacting with people. And I'm sure if you're a Disney fan, you have that same feeling that when you're talking with somebody with the same kind of passions and interests and can share some awesome stories, that it's just a really fun event and fun time.
So, yeah, get in hold of us. We'd love to hear from you. And if you have any questions, if you have any of your own tips you'd like us to share, we'll totally give you credit for it. If you just want to say hi, we'd be happy to hear from you. And we'll go over those ways you can find us again near the end of the show. But let's move on to our main topic of the week. We're closing out. It's Sunday. There could still be some things going on at Comic-Con. But as of right now, this is what's happened so far this week at San Diego Comic-Con 2018. I came into it this week a little concerned because, we focus mostly on Disney-related topics, whether it be Disney, Marvel, Star Wars. And Marvel and Star Wars really didn't have much input going into this week. There weren't going to be any panels from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, neither from Lucasfilm and from Star Wars, just some kind of smaller panels. But Comic-Con never lets us down. There's always some news out there, and they definitely stepped up again this year.
Right. And all things Disney, like you said, be it Star Wars or Marvel or Disney, all had some really fun things that came out or announced this week. So it was really exciting, even though, like you said, they weren't in Hall H or anything like that this year. They still had a wonderful experience and showing at Comic-Con in spite of all that.
In spite of all that, there was, of course, some great things. There's always great things at Comic-Con. Warner Brothers had some great things out of the Fantastic Beasts franchise. They aired a new trailer. There was some good stuff from the DC universe out there, and I'm sure you can find that. But we focus mostly on Disney stuff, so that's where we're going to start. And the big news kicked off right on the first full day of Comic-Con. They were doing the Clone Wars 10th anniversary celebration panel, which is the one panel, like we didn't get to go this year. We've gone the last several years. This year we had some other things that kind of took up our time, so we just couldn't find the time to get out there for the actual convention. But this was the one panel I was really sad. I really was hoping to make it to, and we just couldn't figure it out. But big news came out of that one. The panel was moderated by Amy Ratcliffe. It featured Dave Filoni, who is the supervising director, and you may know him. He handles pretty much all the Lucasfilm Star Wars animated series, whether it be Rebels, whether it's the new one coming up, Resistance, that's coming out. He handles a lot of that stuff and is basically almost the George Lucas of the animated branch of that franchise. Athena Portillo, the line producer, Ashley Eckstein, as you may know as Ahsoka Tano, and she also does her universe, the Star Wars and kind of nerd clothing for women out there, and she has done some great things in that regard. Matt Lanter, who was the voice of Anakin Skywalker, and Kevin Kiner, who was the composer for all the music for the Clone Wars, was there, and they really it was a fun panel. We watched it back, even though we didn't get to 10. We watched it on YouTube, and they really went through some cool stuff through the years of the Clone Wars.
Right. I even learned so much from that, watching that, and just really marveled, I guess, pun intended, different universe, I guess. Yeah. But anyways, I just really enjoyed hearing the descriptions of, kind of the start of Clone Wars and the history behind how they did that, and just how much George was involved in really helping evolve that story and having it be a part of the whole original trilogy. So that was really cool, and a lot about, the sound and how it really blended well with what John Williams had already done with the original trilogy.
Yeah, no, it was really interesting panel. If you want to look for it, at least a couple days ago, it was posted out on YouTube. A couple different sources had recorded out there. It's about an hour long, and you can follow it on YouTube. And it's a really interesting panel. But at the end of the panel, the moderator related that Filoni had something he wanted to share with the fans. And he said, it's been an anniversary. It's been 10 years, and you guys deserve something for being so great. A present, if you will. So we thought there's one thing we could give you. What would it be? So here you go. And they showed this trailer, and it starts off, and it's all these clips from the Clone Wars, a lot of the clone voices out there, and a lot of stuff And then it comes back, and everybody started to realize what was going on here. And it comes out. You'll find the trailer online. It's an amazing trailer.
It's amazing.
And it shows it's coming back. Clone Wars is coming back for another season. I found this out at work. I was at work following along on Twitter, checking this stuff out because I knew this was something we might want to talk about. And they announced it on Twitter. And and Michelle knows me very well. This will not surprise her at all.
Not at all.
And no one who knows me very well, my family, whatever. I broke into tears at work finding out that Clone Wars is coming back. It's just so funny.
13-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Girl, I mean.
Well, I'm a little bit of everything.
Hashtag Clone Wars saved.
Yes, hashtag Clone Wars saved. At the end of the trailer, they had some brand new clips featuring Ahsoka, featuring Anakin. It's so great that they're bringing this back. They wanted to do it for the fans, is what Dave Filoni said. It's so cool, I mean, it was just so exciting because what happened, I don't know if you've watched the Clone Wars. If you haven't, if you're a Star Wars fan, you really should find it. It's still on Netflix. You can go find it. There were 5 seasons plus a little kind of half a season, which they called the Lost Missions. What happened was, after the 5th season is basically when Disney acquired Lucasfilm, and they decided they kind of want to move in a different direction. They had already produced a few more episodes, which was going to be the full 6th season. And so they just kind of tied it up, and they kind of left some things hanging. They left out this, like I said, the split 6th season, which was called the Lost Missions. But there was a lot of stuff out there that kind of had some loose ends that they never tied up. They kind of tied up a couple things, or at least loosely tied them up in Rebels, bringing some characters back, and so, but we never really got that closure out of the Clone Wars. And so now they're bringing it back for what's going to be a 12-episode 7th season. There's no start date yet, but it will be on Disney's new streaming service, which is expected to launch next year at some point.
Right. I mean, the other cool thing, like you mentioned, it is on Netflix. So, and we heard there in the panel discussion, and, we've talked to some other people, and it's really exciting now that another generation, some really younger kids, 5 to 7 years old and, older, obviously, are starting to watch the original Clone Wars. So it's cool that they're going to be able to experience that same joy of watching a new season coming out.
Absolutely. And I know we're going to go back and watch through the seasons again on Netflix while it's still there until it moves to Disney's new streaming service, which I expect will happen as soon as that gets kicked off. But and I'm going to we're going to talk about a couple of the things that are left as loose ends here. And so this is a spoiler alert. If you haven't watched the series, maybe flip ahead about 2 or 3 minutes here into our podcast. But a couple of things that we need to go over here is, okay, flip away. Ahsoka left the Jedi Order at the end of season 5. So what this might tie up is what happened with her between season 5 and when we eventually see her later in Star Wars Rebels, which is after Revenge of the Sith, closer to Rogue One and New Hope. So it'll be interesting to find out what happened there.
Right. And in the trailer, they did definitely introduce that she is there.
She is going to at least make some appearances.
Right.
There was some unrest on Mandalore. We expect that might be part of the storyline. They showed her there. There's a story called The Siege of Mandalore that they may go over. That will be interesting to see too. So very looking forward to it. One of our listeners, Amy, connected with us on Facebook. She was wondering if perhaps this coming back, them announcing that this coming back at Comic-Con, will be relevant to Galaxy's Edge, or will it continue to generate interest and excitement in that? She also said she read a few fan comments that this is a plea to gain back the quote-unquote core fans possibly lost after Last Jedi. I think this was definitely driven by the fans.
Right, it's probably a blend of all of that. I know that with some of the challenges that they've had with, Solo not being as large of a hit, and some of the criticisms of where Star Wars has gone over the last couple of years, that they have been looking at what do they need to do to kind of refocus that core group and, keep the interest going in this franchise.
Yeah, I think it may have been like kind of an olive branch to some of the fans, some of the more loyal fans. There was a big letter writing crusade to kind of get some of these get this show back on. But this is obviously, but you can tell from the trailer that it had been in the works for a little while. They had new animation. They had some of the voice work, although it was only from a couple of the characters. They did have some voice work there. So I don't know if it was completely driven by what happened for Solo or The Last Jedi. And by the way, The Last Jedi, I know we differ on a little bit. I loved it. You weren't as big a fan of it.
There are a lot of parts that I liked. Overall, I'm not saying it was my favorite.
And there were some parts that I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I liked the movie overall. It's okay for people not to like things. And I think that's where some of the Star Wars fans are kind of falling out right now. It's like, you don't have to like it. This person can like it. It doesn't affect your life at all. Anyway, I don't want to get too much into that. But I don't think this was driven by the super negative, really bad fans that are out there that are really trolling a lot of people. And it's really actually a bad part of what Star Wars fandom has become recently. I think this is more like, look, we're listening to you out there. You're really good fans. We want to kind of give you something that you deserve out there for being a fan of Star Wars.
Right. And, and to keep it going. And, if parents are having some issues with the current state of what some of the movies are showing or whatever, this is a good way to reconnect with them so that they are, actually the ones, kind of branding this whole for their children. And so it's good. You know?
And by the way, if whatever happened in The Last Jedi, no matter what you felt about it, if it kept you from going to see Solo, I suggest you check it out when it comes to, it might still be in the theater in a couple places. It's coming out on digital and Blu-ray very soon. Check it out. We both enjoyed it. It's not the greatest Star Wars movie ever, but we both thought it was a good time. Right.
It's a fun movie to watch, and it's fun to see how, the characters came together in this, and it, like Rogue One by far is one of my favorite Star Wars stories. And this is not that intense.
No.
It's not, like I said, it's more just a fun movie. It's a great date movie, It's just a lot of enjoyment. But
it's a fun summer movie.
It's a fun summer movie, yeah.
So if, and that's the thing, is there was so much negative press around that, and negative press coming from some of the less friendly, call them Star Wars I don't even want to call them fans, but those people that enjoy Star Wars themselves or want to see Star Wars their way, then I think it kind of drew some people away from that movie. And I think many Star Wars fans are hurting themselves if they don't go out and at least give this movie a chance. If you don't like it, fine. Like I said, not everybody has to like everything, but I think you're shorting yourself if you don't actually give yourself a chance to see this movie and see if you enjoy it or not. So also, I just wanted one more thing that came out of Comic-Con that is actually today, and that deals with the fandom out there. I don't know if you heard this, but I think I brought it up with you at one point. But Kelly Marie Tran, who played Rose Tico in The Last Jedi, and it's a character very divisive on people liking, not liking this character. And actually, there were a lot of trolls out there who drove her off of Instagram, essentially, just by the things they said.
How sad.
Yeah, it's very sad, and it really bothers me that that's out there in this world right now. But today at Comic-Con, they held what they called a Rally for Rose, and they had some cosplayers dressed as Rose. They had some others dressed in Rose Tico T-shirts, and it was nice to see something supportive coming from the Star Wars community to show that not everybody out there is so negative. No matter what you feel about this character, look, I'm going to tell you right now, you may hate Rose Tico, but if you were offered that gig, you're going to tell me you're going to turn it down your one chance to go star in a Star Wars movie, even if it was Jar Jar Binks, as someone
right.
One of the most hated. I'm not going to say hated, but one of the characters that is not thought of well most in the Star. If you got that chance to get that role, you would take it, I would think. And so I'm just glad to see some people giving her support.
Right. And, I also like that character, but regardless of that, it's just, again, it's a movie and it's a story, but it's great to see that Comic-Con is taking advantage of, really showing the positive side and rallying for, positivity and avoiding these negative things that social media has kind of really started to have pretty frequently.
Yeah, and it's really sad that what's going on right now, and hopefully the Star Wars community can change that and move forward and be more of a positive message out there, because I always felt that's what Star Wars was. It was a positive message series, so hopefully that continues.
And the stories are still on a positive
Absolutely.
note, and so let's just enjoy that.
Right. One other Star Wars related note out of Comic-Con this year is, I don't know if you've been following along on social media, but Mark Hamill has been having a lot of fun on social media with Comic-Con. I'm wondering, putting posts out there, is he there in wearing masks and kind of walking them in among the fans? Is he not there and he's just kind of having fun with everybody? There's been a lot of fun on social media. If you want to go back and follow his timeline, it's at Hamill himself. Go out there and follow, because he's been having a lot of fun. I still don't know if he was there or not. I mean, there's a lot of people that say, yes, he was there. He was wearing this mask this day. He was wearing this costume this day. I still haven't seen genuine proof of it, but either way, it's been a lot of fun to follow along this week.
Absolutely. And, there have been some, unannounced people showing up at panels and things as well. But, he is amazing, and he is just a lot of fun. And one of the things that I tweeted out earlier in the week, too, that I had forgotten about was that he was, we did our Throwback Thursday picture with him with Comic-Con in 1976.
Wow.
And, when Star Wars was being announced at Comic-Con back then. So
back when it was a little smaller than it is today.
That's right.
Just a little bit. just a little bit. Okay, so moving on. We'll get to some other things here, not Star Wars related. Another big show that made a lot of news at Comic-Con, Disney related, is DuckTales. Made some news at Comic-Con this year. They debuted a sizzle reel for season 2, which was really cool. And you can also find that if you want to look around on YouTube and some various other sites. And it's kind of cool. One of the things that came out of it is a glimpse of Magica, who is out of her shadow form in season 2. You don't really get a good look at her, but you get a little glimpse of her. So you may find out. It's kind of interesting to check out in there. Other news that came out is that they showed some slides and some animation stills, some great new characters that are coming in the season 2. The most exciting to me personally, I think you will agree with this too, is that the 3 Caballeros are going to be showing up in season 2. Which means we'll probably get a little more Donald. That's the one thing I've had a problem with DuckTales so far is that Donald's kind of like you barely see him at all in it,
Very infrequent.
So it'd be kind of cool to see him and Jose and Panchito showing up at some point in season 2. I think that's exciting.
Right, and it's so fun to see that coming back and kind of blending with the DuckTales storyline. So, yeah, that was really exciting news for me as well.
Right. One more note out of the DuckTales panel that came out is that Donald Duck is going to have a guest star voice in the season 1 finale coming up. The episode is going to be titled The Shadow War. I'm sure that has to do with Magica in some way, shape, or form, being as that she is a shadow as we know her right now. The person who will be guest voicing Donald Duck is Don Cheadle.
Oh, wow.
Don Cheadle, who you may know from the Marvel Cinematic Universe as James Rhodey, War Machine. He is in Iron Man 2 and 3, The Avengers, Captain America Civil War. He's been all over it. Funny guy. He's actually been in a lot of stuff, but that's maybe
cool.
how you know him from the Disney World most. But that's going to be interesting to see him be Donald. It's such an iconic character.
Right, right.
So that's a lot of fun. Other things that came out of Comic-Con, Disney related. D23 held their 90 Years of Mickey Mouse panel, and they revealed the 90th birthday portrait of Mickey Mouse. It's entitled Spreading Happiness Around the World. If you're looking at the front page, I'm going to post it's in amongst a collage of pictures, Comic-Con pictures. It's going to be on the front page of this podcast. You'll be able to see it there, but you can also find it easily online. It's got Mickey floating over the earth, holding onto balloons, kind of an up style, with a bunch of balloons, including one that is a Mickey balloon, by the way, with Mickey ears. And it's spreading what looks like pixie dust all over the world.
It was so cute to see that even though they were kind of really going about Mickey through the years and how his look has changed somewhat, it has a lot of the classic Mickey look into that portrait. So I was really so thrilled about that.
So it was commissioned by the Walt Disney Archives, D23, and the Walt Disney Animation Studios. And the animator, the artist, he's an animator who created is Mark Henn. And it really is a nice piece of art. I suggest you go check it out. We got to see when we went we went in the studios and went into the Walt Disney Archives. We got to see a couple of the portraits of Mickey Mouse that have been commissioned in the past, and they're really, really cool.
Right. And one of the things I'm reading about people who are just joining D23 now is in their entry box. I don't know what it's really called.
It's a member gift box.
And that usually contains a lot of different pictures. But being that it is the 90th anniversary of Mickey's birthday, they are having more Mickey pictures in that. So I'm looking forward when we renew again that we get to see some of those pieces in our gift box.
Right. When we got our first one, it was the 9 Old Men, a bunch of stuff from the 9 Old Men, which was really cool to go through and leaf through. But yeah, if you join, you can get that box, and it really is a lot of cool stuff involved in there. And there's a lot of other D23 stuff that you, just by a membership, which is really not that expensive, really gets you benefits of. One of them, and we're going to get to our next topic here, was last night's D23 25th anniversary of Nightmare Before Christmas San Diego Member Mixer that we attended last night. This took place last night, which was, if you're hearing this later in the future sometime, I don't know when you're listening to this episode of the podcast, but it was Saturday, July 21st. It was at the House of Blues in downtown San Diego, a few blocks from the Comic-Con and the Convention Center. It had spooky treats, photo opportunities with Jack Skellington, Sally, and Oogie Boogie, which we took advantage of.
Right. We went through both lines.
Right. It was about 250 guests is what I think it seemed like. They did have a few problems, unfortunately, with it. Seemed like the venue wasn't the perfect venue for this. Last year we went, and I'm not going to complain too much about this. It was free.
Right.
And you just had to get there and sign up for these free tickets. So I can't complain too much about anything that's free. We got free food. We had to pay for cocktails, but free food. They had some waters and other drinks and everything there, but it was a free event. But last year we went, and there was a Star Wars related one, and it was at the Hard Rock Hotel. And I want to say it was at least 100 to 150 less people at that venue. It seemed more intimate. It was easier to mix with other people. The flow was a little better. We got to meet a lot of the people, the brass at D23, and talk with them. And it just seemed to flow and just be a little more convenient for people who went.
Absolutely. And we also last year were able to actually, it was a mixer, and we did get to mix with some people and, go to different tables and talk to different fans.
We met some great people last year.
Really enjoyable conversations with a lot of different people. And this, to me, this was more of a celebration of the 25th anniversary of Nightmare Before Christmas rather than so much of a mixer. It wasn't, the setup didn't allow for a lot of mixing, but, still enjoyable. And I agree with you. Last year, the bar was set pretty high compared to this year. It still wasn't definitely a fun event.
Yeah, I think that the issue mostly was the venue. It just didn't function well for the flow of this many people in there. I think if they had cut it back by even 50 people, but more probably like 100 people, kept it to about 150 people approximately, I think it really would have been a completely different event. Again, I'm not going to complain too much about something we got for free because that's just ridiculous and kind of annoying. I'd be annoyed for something. Hey, we give you this for free. What do you want?
Exactly.
But,
and, it did sell out in 5 minutes.
Right.
So, I mean, there is a high demand. It did get a lot of recognition, obviously being so close to Comic-Con as well, made it a very popular event.
Mm-hmm. But this is more just constructive criticism and hoping D23 listens to this and maybe can adjust it in the future. And, we love D23 and we'll be talking more about D23 coming up here in future episodes. But we love them and we want to see them have the best events possible.
Right. And again, I think what you talked about was really spot on, that the venue setting, it was kind of tight and cramped for the amount of people that were there. So maybe even if there were that many guests at this event, having it in a more spacious area, having some of the lines spread out a little bit here, you were kind of, if you were in line for a picture taken, you were kind of bumping up against people getting in line for food, and there was a lot of, there
was some confusion in which line you were in. Everybody kept asking, which line are you in? Are you in this line or are you in that line?
Right.
And it's just a little problem with flow that we used to be. One of the things I don't think we ever got out there. We used to do catering work, and so we kind of had to deal with this. So we kind of know what some of it can be like and the troubles that can be there, and we understand it. So this was again, just a little critique. We're looking forward to next year's and hoping that it's going to be even better, even though we still had fun. We still had fun.
We had a blast.
And we had some great pictures with Jack and Sally and Oogie Boogie. They were a lot of fun.
Yeah, and the people, the characters that were there were very lively and fun and enjoyable to interact with. And, the folks from D23, Michael and Josh, they were wonderful hosts, and we always enjoy having an opportunity to talk to them.
Absolutely, they're always great every time we run into them at any of these events. So that's it for our news right now from Comic-Con. It was another great 4 or 5, if you count preview night, 5 days out here in San Diego. If you haven't ever gone to Comic-Con, really suggest you check it out at some point. It covers so many things. It's really an experience to take in at some point in your life. We will talk more about what we call Disney Comic-Con, which is the D23 Expo that's coming up next year. And we'll be talking about that because tickets for that are going on sale in about a month from now. And that is even, if you're a Disney fan like we are, that is even better. And we'll discuss more of that in the future.
But I also want to give a plug for coming out to San Diego during Comic-Con, even if you can't get tickets, because I know that, there is such a high demand for that. Even if you don't get a badge, I should say, not tickets, badge.
Badges.
Badges, yes. There's a lot going on around the convention center, downtown in the Gas Lamp. There's a lot of events, and
even just going and people watching is amazing out there. It's a lot of fun.
Amazing, and like when we were actually walking to the House of Blues yesterday, we were seeing people will sit on. There's a lot of outdoor seating, and they had their like Olympic scorecards, and as
holding up numbers,
telling people, that cosplay's a 10, and it, just a lot of fun. And they also have a lot of the companies now have a lot of displays and interactive booths outside of the convention center in the Gas Lamp. So if you cannot actually, go into Comic-Con itself, you can definitely enjoy a lot of the great vibe in the city, and everybody can dress up. You don't have to be going to Comic-Con to, cosplay, and it's just amazing, and it's always really positive and a lot of fun.
Yeah, we've gone down there before. Michelle drew up cosplay bingo cards. So you would go along, the group of us, and we would strike off boxes as we, there'd be different characters. Like you saw Superman, you saw Batman, you saw Wonder Woman. If you saw that, it was on your card, you would check it off, and the first person got bingo, got a little prize.
Right, and even just taking the trolley, you can see a lot of great cosplay in there, and it's just so fun. You get in a trolley, you're going somewhere, and you're seeing people all dressed up and happy and excited, and it's super wonderful vibe.
It is. So that's it. Another great week of Comic-Con. If you came out here, thanks for coming out and joining us in our fair city, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in the future. Now, on to the other Disney stories of the week. As we always do, we go through the Disney stories that come out, and there's always so many Disney stories. Again, I won't get to all of these. I'm trying to keep this podcast down. In the last couple weeks, we've broken records for how long the podcast is. I'm going to try and keep this to around 45 minutes this week. Our first story, Bugs Land in the Disneyland Resort, the closing date has been announced as of this week. As you may know, back in March, the Disneyland Resort announced that a new Marvel-themed superhero land will be coming to Disney's California Adventure Park in 2020, and that new land will include, of course, the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. It's going to attach, there's kind of a little walkway and a fence there. They're going to connect to one another. So the final date, if you're a Bugs Land fan and you want to get out there, it's going to be closing on September 4th. So you have just a couple more months to get out there and enjoy that with your little ones. I know there's a lot of people that are very sad by Bugs Land going away, because it really is kind of the only place in California Adventure Park where the little ones can get out there and get on a lot of rides. So get out there and get your crack at it before it closes on September 4th.
It's nice that in Pixar Pier, though, they are starting to adopt some, we're seeing the attractions that they're announcing are incorporating a lot of similar type of attractions that were in that Bugs Land. So I'm sure they are still trying to keep that fan base for those types of attractions for little kids as well. But it makes sense to bring in Marvel. Yeah,
as I talked about in a previous episode, Flix Flyers, it is going to be transformed into the inside-out emotional whirlwind on Pixar Pier. So I don't know when that's going to open up, but that will move, at least transition over there. I don't know if they'll do anything with some of the other rides that are there in Bugs Land, but hopefully they can find some space for them too. So there are still some things for some of the little kids out there.
Right.
New opening date for the Superhero Land has not been announced yet, but it's expected to be sometime in 2020. So we'll see how that progresses. Another note for people who are looking to go to Disneyland and the Disneyland Resort, Amtrak customers can now save on tickets to Disneyland. Now through September 3rd, passengers on Amtrak's Pacific Surfliner, which goes from San Diego to San Luis Obispo, and the other way, of course, they've established a partnership with Disneyland, and that will include a 5% savings on admission to the theme park. So if you are looking to take the train to the park, if you live in LA, it's not a far trip, but hey, it's kind of a way to get there. You don't have to pay for parking, whatever. If you're coming up from San Diego, Santa Barbara, we've taken the train up there, and it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun, and it's a way when you're first going out, you're not having to drive and focus on the road, and just can be relaxing going on up there, and then it does drop you off really close, and it's just like an Uber drive away. It's just very, very quick.
Yeah.
A couple bucks only.
Right. And there's also buses that run from there if you want to just get on a bus. The train gets out right at Angel Stadium there. It's really convenient. It's a lot of fun, especially like on some days, maybe, if you're a really long day at Disney and you just are exhausted, you don't want to drive home. Sometimes it's nice just to hop on the train and just kick back and let them take you to wherever you want to go to. So, like I said, that runs through September 3rd, and it's on 1 and 2 day tickets, 5% savings. So if you're thinking about doing it, look into that on Amtrak's website. I think I have it here. Yeah, it's visit pacificsurfliner.com/Disney and use their reservation number you can use your reservation number to save on those tickets.
Great idea.
Yeah. Now on to Walt Disney World. There's some news out of Walt Disney World, actually, and also the Disneyland Resort. There's some rumors out there that there's going to be a virtual reality Wreck-It Ralph attraction coming. According to Walt Disney World News Today, which is a great website, by the way, WDW News Today, to get some rumors about Disney if you're interested at all. On November 21st, a Wreck-It Ralph VR attraction is slated to open in Disney Springs and at the Walt Disney World Resort and at Downtown Disney at the Disneyland Resort. It's going to reportedly open at the Void, which you may know in both coasts as right now having the VR experience Star Wars Secrets of the Empire, which I know we haven't gone on yet, but I've seen a lot of people, talk to some people who have been there, and they loved it.
Yeah, they said it was just amazing.
Yeah. And apparently it hasn't been named yet, but that is going to open up possibly in November, and they'll still are going to keep the Star Wars attraction. They're just going to kind of split it off, so you can either go to the Wreck-It Ralph or you can do the Star Wars one, or you can do both.
Great idea.
just a rumor, but that would be kind of interesting if that happens. And it would make sense with, of course, Ralph Breaks the Internet coming out this fall to kind of tie it in with that.
Right.
One more note that we have here, and this is a big one. We've been talking about this a couple different episodes. Comcast has conceded to Disney. Disney is going to purchase 21st Century Fox.
Yay.
That's right. They gave up. They couldn't pass up the $71.3 billion offer Disney had put up for 21st Century Fox, as well as the Department of Justice saying that they will not have problems with antitrust issues. So that just was too much for Comcast. They've given up on it now. And so it looks like coming up as early as this Friday on the 27th, when I believe, if I remember from a past episode, is when the Fox shareholders will be voting on this. That's when it could be as early as that Disney will now own 21st Century Fox. I don't know when it will truly become official, but that could be the date that it's voted on, and they can move forward.
That's great news, and it, really be wonderful for so many different reasons. And with Disney going on to the new platform of streaming and everything, this is just a great new addition that they would have to that organization.
Yeah, it's going to bring in the X-Men, Fantastic Four, Deadpool. It's going to bring Marvel, for the most part, back together under one umbrella, which is nice, especially since we're wrapping up Phase 3 with the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, and they'll be looking to move forward with new characters. Well, now they can bring in a lot of these characters in and start telling all sorts of new storylines, and I think that's really big for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Also coming along will be Avatar, which they have a bunch of new movies slated. I believe there's going to be I think it's like 5 new movies, or it's going to be total 5 episodes or something like that coming out. And of course that ties in with Pandora, which is out at the Disney's Animal Kingdom Park. The Simpsons, I know you're excited about the Simpsons coming over. And also the Alien franchise, among many, many other things. I read somewhere that now when this goes through that Disney is going to own 40% of the movies that come into the theaters.
Wow.
It's crazy amount. So that's going to help them for their new streaming platform, like I said earlier, that they're planning on launching at some point next year. They'll have a whole bunch of new content. That includes TV as well, the TV shows. So that's going to be very helpful to kind of get this thing going as they want to battle Netflix. So that's it for our stories of the week. As we could go on forever on Disney stories, but we want to move this thing along. If there's a story we didn't touch on, of course, you can reach out to us on Twitter at Hyperion Podcast. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. And of course, you can email us at HyperionAdventurespodcast@gmail.com and let us know if you want to talk about any stories out there, or if you have a story you want to share with us, feel free to contact us. Now, we're going to wrap this thing up in a timely manner today. I'm going to get this thing in 45 minutes. I swear it's going to happen. And so let's start it off, as we always do, with our tips of the week. And to start it off is Michelle with her tip of the week.
Well, thank you. So this is just actually a bunch of little pieces of information about Disneyland Paris. And for any of you, those of you who would be interested in traveling there, wanted to point out some really great new features they have. So right now they have a deal running until October 8th that you can pre-purchase online an adult ticket for the price of a child ticket.
Wow.
So
That's
that's
great.
until October 8th. And as I mentioned, you can do it online. And I also wanted to talk about that they do have fast passes. And just like at Disneyland, California, and in Florida, you can get a free Fast Pass. It's the one Disneyland Paris is similar to Disneyland California in that you go to the attraction and you get a return time. But they also are having, for a limited time, what's called Access One, and that you can pay per attraction a fee. Right now it's €15, and you can go there anytime. You
Wow.
don't need a specific time. So, I mean, if you are really trying to get through a lot of attractions and you felt like that was your way to get through it in a day, that is available
There's
right
that
now.
one attraction that has the big line, like the Ratatouille attraction.
Right.
Is that line is always crazy. So if you, for whatever reason, couldn't get a fast pass to it, that maybe you do want to splurge a little bit and make
Right,
sure you have access
exactly.
to that ride. You don't want to miss that if you go out there. It will be in Walt Disney World eventually, but
Right.
if you're going to Disneyland Paris, that's an attraction you need to go to.
It's awesome, yeah. The other great feature that they have if you're going out to Disneyland, California, is called Disney Express. And this is something similar to what they have at
Are you
Disney.
Disneyland California or Disneyland Paris?
Disneyland Paris.
Yeah, you
Sorry.
said Disneyland California. That's okay. It happens.
It's in my brain,
Yep.
I guess. So I'm sorry. Disneyland Paris has what's called Disney Express. And this is if you've gone to Disney World and used their services for luggage, etc. It's very similar to that. So here you can get your hotel check-in documents, have your luggage transferred directly to your hotel, and then get your tickets and go straight to the park upon
Nice.
arrival. And that if you book your direct Eurostar train on Disneyland Paris website or through their Disneyland Paris call center, then what happens is that a cast member actually boards the train and gets all that going for you at that time. Otherwise, if you just make your own train reservations, then you once you get to the rail station, then there is a counter that you can go to and drop off your luggage there and get information about your hotel check-in documents, etc. at that same time. So those are some really great features, and that service even includes some of the area hotels that are not on Disneyland property. So
Wow, that's
right,
good.
I know, right? So if you're going to Disneyland Paris, check out some of those special features. They also have the Disneyland Paris app that's available to you as well. But anyways, as I mentioned, you would check out Disney Express luggage service. And it's also, they have a cute little thing on the app describing how that all works with cute little drawings, etc. So
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that might be beneficial for people who are going out there headed out there this summer, or of course there's the Run Disney race coming up in September. If you're heading out for that, there'll be Disneyland Paris Run Disney race coming up. Some good tips that might help them out.
Right, and they are. I believe tomorrow's the deadline. And if that's wrong, I'll tweet out the right deadline. If anybody wanted to call in to be a volunteer for the Run Disney race at Disneyland Paris, they are still taking some volunteers to help with that.
And tomorrow being the July 23rd, if you're listening to this
Correct.
past then,
Thank you.
you may not know, but July 23rd. So that's good knowledge and good to know. Good to know. Thank you, Michelle.
Sure.
Good stuff. I'm going to do something really quickly here so we can make sure and get this thing under 45 minutes. My tip of the week, and it's something that many of you probably already know out there, but I'm sure there are a few of you that either haven't gone to the parks recently or just don't really know and never really thought to check on this. But when you go out there and you're with your family or with your significant other or whatever, of course you want to get some great pictures while you're out there at the parks. They have some great places with a Disney PhotoPass photographer out there that they'll get you in front of some great backdrops with some characters, whatever the case may be. And of course, those cost money unless you purchase an annual pass that has it attached to them to purchase those pictures. That costs money, but you may not know is that not only will those photographers take the picture with their own cameras, if you hand them your phone or your camera, they will always take a picture of you as well in those same areas. So if you don't want to purchase those photos, you can still get them on your own phone, on your own camera, and you don't have to pay an extra cent for them at all. And so, that is one way to help you save some money on these trips. I mean, I will say always that, especially when you're going on a big vacation somewhere, whether it be to Walt Disney World Resort or whether it be to the Disneyland Resort, Memory Maker is a great thing to purchase out there, because especially if it's something that you don't do regularly, you want to keep these family memories with you. Those photographers take great pictures, and they sometimes will add some special effects in with them that make it even that much more magical for your stay. I would suggest for splurging every once in a while to buy that package, the Memory Maker package. But if you don't, this is kind of a great way to just kind of, cut into what it costs you to be on these trips from time to time.
Right. And like you're saying, especially if it's a memorable vacation or a family reunion, then, it is probably a good thing to splurge on some of those available services. And as you mentioned, they not only will take your picture with your phone, they'll also help you set up to pose and, to get the optimal shot. And the other thing they have in the parks too are where it says photo station. Sometimes there's not somebody there to take pictures, but it kind of gives you a clue in that there would be a great backdrop.
Right, absolutely. There are some great spots out there to get those photos, and really take advantage of them when you're out there. You'll really love those pictures in the future. So that's it. We're going to get this thing in maybe a little over 45 minutes, but pretty close to it. Thanks for joining us again. Next week, we're going to be telling you more about the Chalk Walk. Coming up, we've talked about it in a previous episode. The Chalk Walk in the park at the Disneyland Resort, which is coming up next month in August. We're going to be talking some about that. We're trying to set up some things, but our plan is to have Zach Abrams on, who is the Assistant Vice President of Community Engagement and Special Events for the Chalk Children's Foundation. He's going to be joining us for an interview to talk about that great event, talk about the charity that it supports, and hopefully see why maybe you might want to get involved in that. So that might be fun for next week.
Oh, right. And it is a fun event. It's, it's a simple event because it is a walk. You're going through the park, but the cast members at Disney really embrace this. They're all out there, and there's a lot of fun things to see along the way. Great photo opportunities there as well. And like you said, you're going there for a great charity, and it's really wonderful to see and hear about the stories of kids who have really benefited from the Children's Hospital. And so I would totally recommend it. It's just fun, and it's a really easy early morning to go through Disneyland Park.
Yes, and we'll get more into that next week. We'll really break it down, and we're looking forward to that discussion with Zach Abrams next week. So that's it for this week. Follow us on social media, as I said before, on Twitter at Hyperion Podcast. On Twitter at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook and Instagram at Hyperion Adventures Podcast, on the web, HyperionAdventuresPodcast.com, and you can email us at HyperionAdventuresPodcast@gmail.com. We're glad you found us today. In the future, you can find us on SoundCloud. You can find us on Stitcher. You can subscribe to us on iTunes and Google Play Music, and we'll come right to your phone or devices whenever the new episode comes out. It's usually Sunday, but there may be some different times, different dates. It'll come right to there, and you can listen to it whenever you want. Please, if you have the chance, tell a friend about us. There's plenty of people out there who love Disney, may not know about us, but might want to be interested in what we're talking about here. Please tell them about us. But also, even more importantly, if you just have a couple seconds on one of these sites, if you could just give us a little review, that would help immeasurably to getting some people out there that maybe this might be of interest. This podcast might be of interest to them. Get them to know who we are, and that it might be something that they would enjoy.
And thanks to those of you who have given us some feedback already and some ideas for some future episodes.
Yes, our Hyperion adventurers out there, please contact. We talked about that at the top of the show. Please contact us. We'd love to know who you are. So that's it for this week. Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Hyperion Adventures Podcast. And once again, as always, we hope you have a magical week.
Thank you very much for listening. Bye.